I'm here with my good friend Bill Pierznik, who is founder of Macro Law Group. But man, we go way back and our entrepreneurial stories are kind of woven together. How I started Thesis was a group of us founders pitched at this Angel Oregon event, and then all the quote unquote investors of the 300 people in the crowd were all they were just interested in kicking tires but not really investing. And so in the parking lot we formed this group called Startups. We were all starving startups, and then within a couple years of that, I guess it was 2004, you just reminded me, you were at Stoll Reeves, right. And then kind of came on and tell us kind of your journey from there to now Macro Law Group.
Yeah, so I started actually practicing in Silicon Valley during the internet boom. So I was fortunate enough to be there at a firm called Cooley, which had the highest number of IPOs in the country in 1999. So
Pets.com.
Pets.com.
For real? I just throwing that.
MVP.com with Michael Jordan on there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So crazy time, super fun time. Then moved up here in 2002 and worked at Stoll Reeves, working with their technology ventures group, and that's when we met.
Yeah.
So I spent about 4 years at Stoll Reeves, working with primarily tech companies, kind of doing soup to nuts on the business side. I was fortunate in that I was trained both in being a corporate lawyer, but then also being a commercial lawyer, which a lot of people didn't usually people specialize pretty deeply. So I was trained in both of those. And so that expertise allowed me to just start working with companies across the board. So not have to say, I have to bring in this guy, or it was like, oh, I can do that too. So was at Stoll, a great opportunity there, worked with some really great companies. Yeah. But, as we were talking earlier, just being around you guys, and I was like, I kind of want to go try that, but I didn't know how to go try it. So I said, well, I can't start a product company, but maybe I can do this law thing on my own. And it was really scary. I'd never done anything like that before. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to make any money whatsoever. And I remember my first day at starting my own firm in 2006 called Alto Law Group. My first day, I was there until midnight working on client stuff from 8 a.m. till midnight. And I was like, okay, I think there's a market here.
You're
right?
going to get paid, yeah.
Yeah. And basically, the approach then is kind of still the approach we're using now at Macro, which is, hey, there's a better way to do this type of service where you can be practical, think like an entrepreneur, think like a business owner, own the problem, and then really be light on your overhead and infrastructure. So remote first, no employees, automate everything, and take all of that and package that to an offering to tech companies, startups, growth companies, innovation companies, and say, hey, we can do 90% of what these bigger firms do at probably 50% of the cost. And so we started Alto with that, and we grew Alto. That's when we spent a lot of time together. I spent a lot of time with, at the back in the day, our clients were Urban Airship and Puppet and Jive, Jama.
You had 200 startup clients.
Yeah, one of the Bill Lynch once said that I was everybody's first lawyer in Portland, which is a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why is because I think a lot of founders don't realize this until they've had a lot of bad lawyers and then they have a good lawyer. And for me, a lot of the difference is most lawyers are just here's 3 options you can choose from, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And you are often hey, if I were in your shoes, I would do this one thing. Totally. You mix business sense in with just the law.
Totally.
And oh man, having a good lawyer, not just in your business, but also your personal stuff, makes a huge difference. And people don't know it until it's too late.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of lawyers are just nervous to do that. They're nervous to kind of go out on the limb.
Yeah.
And for good reason, right? There's a lot of malpractice claims of bad advice. Our approach and my approach is a little bit different, which is hey, we're in the boat together. And I'm going to give you the best advice, and I'm going to tell you what I would do if I were you. if we need the chapter and verse, we'll go get that. We can even pull in the bigger firms to kind of go do the deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
But for most companies, most individuals, they want to know, like, tell me what the parameters are, tell me what my options are, and tell me what the practical risks are, not the theoretical risks.
Yeah.
So that's what we did with Alto. We built Alto up. One of my clients was Jive Software, and as you know, back in the day, they took off like a rocket ship, and we grew with them, did a lot of their work, and in late 2010, early 2011, they approached me because they were wanting to go public, and they approached me about becoming the General Counsel to do that. And at the time, I was thinking, man, that sounds super fun, and so we were making a lot of money at Alto. And I was like, do I leave this thing go and go jump in here? And I was sort of like one of those things, well, if you have this itch, you got to scratch it. And at the time, if you think about 2010, there hadn't been an IPO in the Portland market for like six or 7 years, something like that. And so I said, I don't know when the next one of these is going to come along. I love the people, I love the vibe, I love the product. So sold my law firm to my partner, jumped into Jive and took them public, which was super fun. And that kicked off about 11 years of being inside of companies. Yeah. And I tell people, I tried to become the recovering lawyer. So I tried to expand out and not practice law. All the time I was always kind of doing the legal thing plus. So I started doing corporate development, which is M&A, then started doing partnerships, and then I went over to JAMA Software for a little bit and helped run their sales team, and then I jumped into Acton Software, where I was chief operating officer, kind of overseeing a bigger picture, and then worked as the CEO of a small company that our friend Dave Hirsch owned. We sold that in 2023, and at that point it was sort of like, well, what am I going to do next? And I started thinking the thing I loved most in my career was building, right? And truly building something from scratch. And that was the Alto days back in 2007, 2008. And I said, okay, what would it look like to go do that again? And so the same principles from the Alto days came forward into macro when we started in 2023. But two things had happened. One is the market had even gotten crazier in terms of law firm rates and kind of over engineering, number one. And two, technology was really starting to come into the fore.
Right.
So we started looking at it like, hey, can we build a tech-enabled law firm? And
you wanted your clients to all be like on a subscription kind of model, but
that was the idea.
Yeah, now like Thesis and One App and others are like, hey, we'll just pay you by
Yeah. So the idea was, and it still is, like, look, if you can really get the robots to do a lot of the work, then I should be able to fixed fee and put a box around everything and say that's here, this is going to cost this for that. It's not there yet. I do think it'll get there, but it's going to be longer than people think. So now we've got probably 8 to 10 clients on some type of subscription model. But what we do a lot of is just, hey, if we could put a box around it, like any professional service, we can put a box around the scope, we'll charge you a fixed fee.
Yeah.
Because that gives you cost certainty, gives us revenue certainty, then I can manage the margins internally.
Right.
And so clients, two things, clients really like that concept. And then the ad hoc stuff, the day-to-day, we still now have built this firm where, compared to our competitors here in Portland, we're probably about 50 to 60% of their cost. If you go to our competitors in the Bay Area, New York, we're 30% of the cost, something like that. So we don't ever want to sell on that, but for smaller companies, that stuff does add up.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, which speaks to the values of your firm, but you decided as a company to sponsor the Rebuilding Wealth Summit that we're hosting here at Thesis. What is your kind of personal story of like why to sponsor?
Well, first of all, watching all the efforts and all the work that you do here in Portland and supporting people, I'm honored to be your friend around all that.
Yeah.
So when you and I started talking about this, I started looking at it, and one of the things that was important to me is I was the first person in my family to go to college. And so I was fortunate that my parents realized the value of a good education, and they pushed me to have a good education, but they didn't know the things that they don't teach you in school. So, everything from, how to prioritize your time to how to think about your personal finances, how debt works, how, and all of the things around that. And so I kind of grew up without that stuff and made some personal and business financial mistakes along the way, and then kind of was able to pull together and be around some people who became mentors around that stuff and really taught me like, hey, there's no dumb questions around this. We all had to learn it too in different ways. And I learned from them and learned by osmosis. And it was really important to me because I think, it was probably age 30 before I realized that, an ETF and ATF are two different things, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I started looking at what you guys were doing, I felt like, okay, hey, look, here's an opportunity, one, for me to sponsor people in the community, number one. But then two, I think the things I struggled with, I think are still true. In other words, like I don't think our schools, and it's not the school's fault, but high school, college, you name it, even like young professionals are not taught these life skills.
Yeah.
And so if I can in any way give back in a way that helps people learn those life skills early in life so they don't make the mistakes that some of us have made, I'm all for that.
Yeah, and a lot of the audience is founders who their biggest wealth lever is their company, and so like even like legal advice, like coming and talking to small groups, all that stuff. So it's amazing how fast 10 minutes goes. But any last thing that you want folks to know about like your journey or
I think our journey, my journey, the best times of my professional career have been here in Portland, and the best companies and the best friends I've built are here in Portland. And so we're here in Portland to support the communities and to be supportive in any other ways we can. And we're open for business if people need legal advice.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Cool.
All right, cheers.
Thanks, man.